I'm Huples Cat from the Great White North. I'm going to go through the 2024 revised Swedish Emergency Preparedness Booklet because emergency preparedness is something we should all have. The first booklet was sent to everybody in Sweden in 1943. Sweden was neutral in World War II. They stopped sending it in 1991 when the former Soviet Union collapsed. Now they resumed sending it in 2018 and they've now updated in 2026. Sweden believes in total defence. The entire population ages 16 to 70 will be in the military or supporting it if war happens. They want everyone to be basically prepared for any crisis or war. Sweden already has a lot of fallout shelters for its population and believes it can restock these within 48 hours. This is very different from the United States of America or Canada or the United Kingdom. Okay, let's open the brochure and start reading now. On the opening page, soldiers are protecting a sheltering family. Is this a reassuring image? They then tell you on page 2 to keep the booklet in a safe place. They of course should keep the booklet safe, but the message should be to act on all of the instructions inside the booklet now, not when a crisis starts. This is the contents list. If you follow this will make a decent start to get you emergency prepared. Manage on our own for at least a week. Can you? Right now, stay in your home for a week with no electricity, gas, water or sewage. Nuclear war won't be fun. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, is absolutely pointless unless modern healthcare is available and ambulances are available. It's a good skill to have in normal time. However, on page 25 actually gives great advice for trauma response in a disaster. Make sure everyone, including children, do a decent first aid course every 2 to 3 years. This is good advice, maybe. If your neighbours and friends and family do not prepare and they think you have, you must expect visitors in a disaster and you're going to have to share. CERT training in America, Red Cross in Canada are great, but in World War III do not expect to be allowed choice in deployment. On page 7, total defence is explained, which we will return to. But I wonder if it really means everyone, not just citizens. People on holiday, are they going to get drafted? Everyone is conscripted. By who? How? Are all interesting questions. Mobilising everyone is a staple of world wars. So was propaganda with images of soldiers and politicians defending the families of your nation. Some things never change. Page 9 confirms it. Everyone is going to be drafted in Sweden, not just citizens. A nuclear war in Central Europe, and I'd not be surprised if most people flee the cities almost immediately. Highways might be closed, gasoline and food might fail, as who wants to be in a truck or train? Those who feel threatened will run. In World War III, there'll be no orderly evacuations over weeks or months. People will flee in terror, not caring to stay and fight for Sweden's total defence once a few cities have been nuked. On 9/11 in downtown Toronto, there were numerous injuries by people fighting with each other to escape from the towers. People are different now than they were in 1939. Pages 10 and 11 deal with the public warning systems. The advice here is good advice for fires and fallout, even if your government has no emergency sirens. Once the bombs drop, don't expect any of these to ever function again in your lifetime. On page 11, will all Swedes get a wartime posting? The volunteers already have in Sweden, but everyone? You better get under cover within a minute given the proximity to Russia. Here in Canada we maybe have 6 minutes before the fireball happens. Not that we'll probably get any warning. Page 12 contains good advice, but note that for chlorine and sarin gas, they sink, so a basement is exactly the worst place to hang out. The chance of a chlorine or sarin gas attack en masse is really low. However, if you have industrial plants near you, have a look at do they have chlorine? But anyway, so you survive. I always wonder what then? What will happen when people emerge from these shelters? And there's no country left untouched to help. It's an okay representation on page 13, but for goodness sake, cover your eyes, skin and mouth breathe if it's a nuclear war, or even a conventional war close by. Page 14 shows a nice picture. We lighten the mood. We see Swedish dad being controlled by Swedish child, so they will survive World War III. Page 15 says for at least 1 week. Share if you can, but only share if it's safe to do so. Prepare now, not during the crisis. In World War II, millions died from starvation, so hope for a short and very limited war. Hope that it will all be over by Christmas and everything will be back to normal. However, I don't expect that will be the case. I expect the next war will never really end because there will be no governments left to end it.
This is a real emergency. I repeat, This is a real emergency. This is the Canadian Broadcasting System. An enemy attack on North America has been detected. Sirens are now sounding and have sounded the attack warning. Listen for further instructions. This is a real emergency. I repeat, this is a real emergency. This is the Canadian Emergency Broadcasting System. An enemy attack on North America has been detected. Sirens are now sounding or have sounded the attack warning. This is a real emergency. Take cover immediately. Here are some instructions. If you are at home, go to the basement or strongest part of your house or building which offers the best protection. Take your battery radio with you or turn up the house radio so that you can hear it while under cover. Stay away from windows. Lie down and protect yourself from flying glass and falling debris. Shield your eyes from the flash of an explosion. If you are away from home, take protective cover immediately. If you are traveling, stop and take protective cover immediately. If you are only a few minutes from a safe destination, proceed and take protective cover immediately. Listen to your radio for further instructions.
They suggest 3 litres a day of water. Please note you need a lot more of that in hot weather. If you're in an apartment or you're space constrained, get lots of water containers and fill them if things look bad. Always have some watering containers at home and in the car. Get a gravity water filter when you can afford one. Berkey or a Lifestraw Mission 12. This is good advice, but consider an indoor tent on a mattress in the winter. Avoid open flame and have a battery-powered smoke detector. In the Northern Hemisphere where we have snow like Sweden and Canada, have a working wood stove. It's an absolute must for power outages. Most new homes have none. All good ideas, but consider alternatives and power sources for them. In World War III, these things will fail or disappear rapidly. I guess newsprint will also run out in World War III, but having multiple sources of information is a good idea. Food should be straightforward. Stock what you use now and rotate it. Have no cooked foods that are healthy and last. Avoid ultra-processed survival products. Look at hiking and camping options. Most grocery stores have great options. For example, products like this, I really recommend stuff like this. And yeah, you can get vegan ones. These are all vegan. Kitty got me a bunch of these for Christmas. They are expensive. Cash on hand in small bills is great. ATMs and credit card and debt systems are all probably going to fail if there's no power. Most crises, whether local, national or international, by their very nature, mean there'll be no electrical power for quite some time. Bartering for skills for stuff later on is a good idea. Collect urine and dump outside. Seal all of your toilets to stop rats entering your home. Use linen cloths when you have no toilet paper. The covering with sawdust or kitty litter works, but you need a huge amount of those products and still have to dump it. It's an extremely short-term response to a toilet not working. Keep your easy single-use stuff like kitty litter and sawdust for when it's deep midwinter and everything's frozen solid. The other section is mainly single-use items. These are great for an ice storm, but are not great for a world war. Sure, you won't have to deal with anything for a week or two, maybe even 3 weeks, but then what are you going to do? Keeping 1 month's medication is very sensible. If you can, parts of America won't allow you to do that. And in 2024, the millennials are taking over. They should specify you need a manual tin opener. It's interesting to highlight this. I wonder if this would happen in World War III. Millions going where? Anyway, this is an excellent things to bring list for anyone evacuating a crisis, especially the map and compass. But to me, that does imply no one is coming to help you from the government or anybody else. You will be on your own. I didn't find the map very user-friendly, and I wonder how protected under the laws of war would be in a world war. get to them in a power failure. Canada? We don't have any. Learn how to build your own. Cloud service? No, never. Hard copies on your own storage devices. Don't install any security updates for 24 hours after release. This is because hacks can present as an update. The computerization and online of everything makes resilience very poor. Sweden. If you must, fight to the death if a terrorist attacks you. The NSA handled this far better than Sweden, though they have sadly more experience. It's hard for Americans, I know. The rest of the world accepts the science of climate change. This advice is fine but very minimal considering that this risk is increasing and the costs of it are increasing every year. Pathogens is a fun one. We are very much overdue for a killer flu pandemic. In general, make sure your specific needs are covered by yourself and nearby friends and family. No one is going to do any of these things for you if Stockholm is hit by a nuclear bomb. Winter ice storm? Of course they will. I'm thinking of doing an entire episode on pets based off the Nordic emergency preparedness booklets that I have. The information here in Sweden is leave it at home with a week's food and water, unless it's a service dog. Don't agree with that. Good advice. Keep a journal if the crisis is ongoing. The advice for children is excellent here. Good advice, but add in contacts like the dentist, family doctor, emergency vet, emergency contacts. Well, we made it to the end, so back to Swedish Kitty. Swedish Kitty decides to get prepared.
It's pretty good actually, this one. They even talk about excrement, what foods you should have, what waters. They'd rather have you prepared for a week. The whole country should know some of this stuff because apparently they're all conscripted.
Yes.
They all must rise, they must never surrender.
Good, nothing false.
Well, I mean, there's maybe a few little questionable things. I'm not sure why you need blueberry and rose hips tea, but, you know.
Vitamin C, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but
Must
no,
be a
it's pretty good.
traditional Finnish thing, maybe.
It's pretty good.
If you're ever in IKEA, maybe you should get some.
They don't know what situation they're dealing for, so it has to be a bit generic.
Right.
And these are generic instructions. It's never going to be bad to have water and food in place and to have an idea of
Would you act on that if you were Swedish and you got that in the mail?
I mean, I think it's important. There's a few things you're supposed to know. Maybe you would keep this somewhere near at hand in case there's a signal warning, because the signal warnings you might not remember.
Well, they test them every month in the
They
cities.
test them every month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you say, there's no point in having a signal go out if people aren't used to it.
No,
So that's why they
people aren't
test
used
it.
to knowing it. So, yeah, I mean, it asks something of you, but it's also supplying information, so it's good.
Good. All right. Thank you. This has been a 2025 Sleeping Terrier production. This has been a 2025 Disturbed from His Sleep Terrier production. No terriers were harmed in the making of this film. This has been a Wolfie Terrier about to face a terrible cold day production.